Attention all students. Class is in session. With your hosts, Pat and George. That'll teach ya.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of That'll Teach You. Yes. Hold your applause. It is very exciting. It is the podcast that aims to teach you all the things that school just did not, and there is a lot of them. Each episode we aim to bring you a different lesson, and hopefully you guys will learn a lot of things along the way. I'm your co-host, Patrick Johnston. I have with me my other host, George. George, great to see you.
Great to see you too, Patrick.
How are you today?
Mate, I'm beside myself in excitement. I'm really ready to tackle this podcast head on. For our inaugural guest, we've got a lady that's had almost 15 years industry experience. She was the 2022 finalist for the Australian Women in Finance Awards, Accountant of the Year.
God, maybe she should be running this podcast. She's more qualified than us.
It's Katie Michael from 542 Partners. So she's a senior manager of the firm, and it's based over in Cronulla, New South Wales. So,
beautiful. I can't wait to get into it.
Let's do it, mate.
That'll teach ya.
Katie, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure as always seeing you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast, your new podcast.
Yeah, she was very surprised with how professional it was, which is, I don't know if that's an insult or...
I think I'm just excited by new gadgets. So earphones, microphone. I can get used to this.
Yeah, or
cool.
You can thank our producer Carter for that. I mean, without him, we would have been showing up here with some sticks or something. It would have been pretty poor. No, Katie, just for our listeners who don't know who you are or what you do, can you give us a little rundown of who you work for? What is your world? Introduce us.
Sure. I work for 542 Partners at Cronulla. It's a firm of 23 people.
Yeah, wow.
I'm a senior manager there. We have a great team of juniors, other managers like myself, awesome partners there. We look after a whole range of clients in different industries such as hospitality, construction. I look after primarily Australian companies or big multinationals. Wow. I'm starting to learn different languages such as Hebrew and German.
Really?
Yeah, because
That's
they
impressive.
send me all their documentation in those languages. I'm like, what is this? But I'm starting to learn.
Wow.
That's
I
cool.
couldn't
Really
even
cool.
think, like, you know, when you think of accountants dealing with problems in their industry, it wouldn't be learning another language.
Yeah,
wouldn't be up there.
100%.
That's insane.
Accounting takes you to all different places, really.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're going to be dealing with, not only in Australia, but
Yeah.
overseas as well. So it's really
What
cool.
does a senior manager role mean? What does that entail day to day?
I have my own client portfolio.
Wow.
So it's quite extensive, and I literally manage the financial hygiene of their businesses or even just personal tax returns. And if people want to invest, I'm there as their support. So I'm their right-hand person when it comes to financial information and helping them interpret all their financial information.
So, do you do, like, if George and I wanted to come in for our personal tax returns? Yeah. I mean, not being me and George, because you obviously take us on as clients. But, you know, if Joe Bloggs off the street came in, would that be in your ballpark, or does that go to someone else?
Ideally, it would go to someone that was more junior.
Yeah.
I'll be there as support, but the juniors will be able to assist in any capacity. And also our juniors, they're quite advanced.
Yeah.
So they have that face-to-face interaction already. So regardless, anyone's in good hands.
Yeah, nice.
Right.
Did you always want to be an accountant growing up?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I know
What a
that
wild
sounds bizarre.
childhood Katie would have had live at the party.
I actually knew at the age of 15, 16. It was in year 11, and they were
doing
offering
business studies or
No, they were offering an elective,
Yeah, wow.
accounting, and it was run through the TAFE.
yeah, cool.
And I thought, I don't know what accounting is, but I'll sign up.
Yeah.
And I found that I actually understood it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is an avenue for me.
Yeah,
and then
Definitely helps.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're at a young age, half being interested in something is being good at it, you
Yeah.
know? So if you get it, you understand it, you
Yeah.
tend to have more of an interest, which is like,
Well, and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like someone
Yeah.
that doesn't understand something, it's just like,
Correct.
it's going to become frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't met many people that just have an innate understanding of accounts, so that's you must have been off to a head start.
In saying that, though, I did go to uni, I got a degree, did my CA, so it plays a part. But I also had good mentors too.
Yeah.
So the teachers that I had, they explained it properly. It helps
Yeah.
when you got somebody on your side. And
What is your CA? Is that
chartered accounting.
Yeah,
So
right.
I'm part of the Institute of Chartered Accountants.
Yeah.
It's an accreditation you need to get to be an accountant.
so everyone has to do that?
Yeah.
Everyone that's a registered accountant?
Yeah, that's right.
What else, for someone who's listening and thinks maybe one day they want to get into something like that, what is the general, qualifications needed? Do you have to go to uni? Can you go to TAFE? What do you need to be qualified?
You can go to TAFE,
Yep.
definitely. It's a stepping stone for you to get into uni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can work for a firm, from what I understand,
Yep.
when you go to TAFE, but it limits you as to what you can do after that. So it's good to have that accreditation so you can move up in the world if you want to move up in the corporate world or just in any sort of firm, and then, climb the corporate ladder. So that's what you
What's
need.
how long's the degree?
It's 3 years
Yep.
at university. TAFE, from what I recall, was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the accreditation, it could take you 18 months, it could take you 3 years. It just depends when you want to do each subject.
Yeah.
But it's worth it in the end.
Well, I mean,
Cool.
for those people who sort of know nothing about the tax world, anything at all, can you give us a little insight to how or why it's important to have an accountant? Even
Sure.
if you are not a small business or a multinational company, if you're just, starting out, got a normal job, PAYG, why is it important to engage and involve an accountant?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people think accountants are just about the numbers. But we're far from that. So we're well beyond the numbers. So every day at work, I just plus minus times divide, like max. So what we do is interpret those numbers and
Yep.
Yeah.
and sit down with whoever it is, if they have their own business or looking to open a business, or even if they just want to understand what tax means. We sit down with them and say, okay, this is what it means, and this is how it will impact you, and this is how it's calculated as well. So we try as hard as we can and try and scrap the lingo and tell them what they need to know so they have a basic understanding of what's going on, or just being that support to say, hey, you can do this per tax legislation. So our job is mainly looking at legislation and seeing what you can and can't do.
I often tell our clients that, accountants are like wizards. They always seem to know the magic fix to it. It's genuinely quite impressive.
That's what I think about mortgage brokers.
Well,
Thank you.
we'll take that. But I think it's important. I mean, like mortgage brokers or financial planners or accountants, it's why we all work so well together, because it's the stuff that no one really wants to take the time out to learn for themselves, because it only applies at such a specific point and often a limited point in people's life.
Exactly.
For tax, it's around June, July, end of financial year. For mortgage brokers, it's, when
Whenever
you're
you
buying a
wanna work it.
house.
Yeah.
Financial planners, when you're thinking about retirement or insurance, that's why you let people like us do all the groundwork and understand the legislations and the rules, and it's all about how you
Exactly.
can interpret that and educate people, which is why we're so lucky to have you on today, because hopefully that gives people a little cheat sheet into how to get ready for these sorts of things.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
they don't need to learn every single little bit of the legislation. That's what we're here for.
That's exactly right. That's why they're professionals.
Yeah, so definitely it's worth having an accountant on their side, or a mortgage broker, or anybody in professional services, because
What are the rough costs involved in that for just a basic accountant? How does that work?
it depends. So my firm is actually quite unique in the sense that we don't have timesheets. We just bill our clients based on a fixed fee.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, so they can pick up the phone whenever they like, and they're not going to be charged for it. So, basically for an individual tax return with us, it's about $360 plus GST at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'll be there to sit there and listen to them and tell them exactly what their tax is and how we arrived to that position. So that's a basic cost. Obviously, it depends on each person's unique situation.
Of course. I guess some of our listeners are like sole traders, business owners, just starting out. Like, what are some of the best sort of tax tips you can probably provide for those guys, and how important it is to be on top of things?
Yeah, it's quite different to just being an employee.
Yeah.
So it's all fantastic. You're your own boss. You can invoice whenever you want. The money is all yours, but that's only half of it, or if not a quarter of it.
Yeah.
So what everyone needs to understand is that there will always be that tax obligation there, or any obligation really. So what debts they need to pay, what costs. So it's really important for them to understand exactly what they're spending their money on and how they're earning their money. So what I suggest is, initially what we tell our clients is to budget. So even just put an Excel file together. If they don't have the software, we use Xero. And I'm a big advocate for Xero.
Really?
Yeah.
So I use Xero for myself, and my husband thinks it's overkill.
Oh, really? Like your receipts and everything.
Yeah, I go to the
that's
granular
good.
detail, and my husband's like, no, you're not looking at mine before I say stop buying that fishing rod.
Yeah. Why is my fishing budget $10?
But when people budget, it's a bit of a shock initially to see what's coming in and what's going out and what money is being spent on what. But it's a fantastic thing to do, and then you get into a habit and see what is good for your business and what is not. I'd say first point of call is to budget. Obviously, that'll be a little hard to begin with because you're starting your own business, so you don't know really where to start, but it's a trial and error. So at least if you put those best practices into place initially, then...
It's funny because I think if you asked, again, an accountant, a mortgage broker, and a financial planner, it all revolves around getting your budget right and knowing your numbers. I think that's good advice for anyone coming into finance. I think you're right. You've got to be really honest with your budget as well, because I've done mine and I go, Netflix for $10 a month, and I look, Netflix charged me $24 or something a month because I'm on 3 screens and HD. And
I add 10% on top of everything. Like
you're a smart guy. Just listen to you.
And we understand initially if you're opening a business, there's going to be an initial outlay as well. So they need to take that into account to see.
And I guess you're a good support with someone who's, new to having their own business. Getting a trusted accountant is a really good handhold or stepping stone into navigating that world as well.
For sure.
One of the things that we get asked a lot by our clients who are small businesses is around cars in the business for business use. I feel like that's one that anyone who's an ABN like sole trader or has a company goes, can I buy it through my company? What are the general rules on that? What's the thought behind it? Does it matter?
Oh, it all depends. You're going to hear me saying it depends.
Yeah, there's no straight answers here, everyone.
But there's always a catch with the
okay.
ATO. So from a tax perspective, if you have your car in a company and you use it for private use, there is something called fringe benefits tax. So what that is that it's another tax that's implemented for somebody receiving a benefit from a company or any business for personal use. So if you garage your car at your house, that is considered personal because you're driving to and from work.
What?
Yeah. So there's some things that we need to iron out, and there's a lot of things that people don't.
Because I think even PAYG people have like FBT on their pay slips, if they get a car allowance or something. So is that why that is included? Right,
correct.
that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
There you go. If you're thinking about doing anything dodgy, the ATO, they're onto you. They'll know.
No way around
for
it.
sure. All right. For those of listeners out there that are going, it's all great talking about small businesses. It must be hard for them to navigate through. But what about me? What can I claim if I don't have a small business? I don't have an ABN. What sort of deductions are there that the normal person can claim that they probably wouldn't know about?
Yeah, so there's home office equipment. So a lot of people are working from home now.
Yeah.
So if they buy laptops, chairs, office desks, then that can be depreciated. So what I say by depreciated is that there's a deduction that is claimed over the life of the asset.
Yep.
So, for example, a desk would last 4 years according to the ATO. So you
Not
would
in this office, Katie. It's real angry brokers in here.
So there's that option too. There's stationery that you can claim. What else is there? Donations.
So
If you decide
when
to
you
donate.
when you say claim, just to clear up for people,
Sure.
what does that mean for them? Does that mean more money in their pocket immediately? Like, how does
It
that
does
work?
not, unfortunately.
Drats.
The government doesn't just
Yeah. Nothing's for free.
So the way the ATO calculate what your I'll throw a few words out.
Yep.
So taxable income.
Yep.
So what that is the money that you make during the year. So that can be from your employment, it could be from interest, it could be from rental properties. That's part of your income. Then you have your deductions, and that's what I mentioned where you can claim. So deductions are all your home office equipment, which I mentioned before, stationery. What else can you claim? Accounting fees. So
There you go.
Accounting
Everyone,
fees are
accounting
deductible,
fees
so
are
that's why you
deductible.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
yeah. So once you have your income, then your deductions reduce your income, and then you end up with a taxable income. So that taxable income is then taxed for individuals, it's per your marginal rate. So there's different brackets as to where you sit. For example, the first 18,200 is free. Why I say by free, 0%, and then it goes up from there. So the highest marginal rate, if you earn over 180,000, it could go up to 47%.
Wow. So these things are, I guess, good because it takes off, even though you're still earning, say if your salary was 180,000 and you had 50,000's worth of deductions, you'd get taxed at a lower rate. Is that basically the benefit of claiming things on your tax return?
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. I should not have to worry about that because I don't get paid enough. So, no, I think that's a good tip because, like, a lot of, you go to parties and things like that and social events, and everyone's always talking about depreciation or add
Throwing around
backs and,
fancy terms and all that
fancy
sort of.
terms.
You're like,
and-
oh yeah, I know that.
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
People actually talk about that at
Yeah,
social events.
yeah.
I thought it was only us
the ones we
accountants.
go to. Yeah. We're probably all at the same event. And then no one else gets invited or
What
shows
exciting
up.
events.
Yeah. I mean, but I think it's good to know because a lot of people throw it into a conversation and a lot of the time people feel too embarrassed to ask what that means because they feel like it's something they should know. And goes back to the point of this podcast is it really should be something that everyone's taught through school, just these basic principles so they know how to lodge a tax return or, they know how the premise of taxing your income works.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big advocate for that. I wouldn't have any idea if I didn't do the accounting course.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Katie, we'll always love to hear the challenges that a lot of our guests face.
Yes.
But from coming from your end, what's one particular challenge that you've faced recently in terms of work and accounting?
Yeah, I would say a lot of accountants would say this, but COVID. So
Wow. Okay.
COVID
Thank
was...
you for opening with that. It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
COVID was something else. So I guess for everyone.
Yeah.
But to be that person that is supporting your client and then they're going through real hardships overnight, that was really confronting to see.
Yeah, for sure.
And we tried to help them as much as we possibly could. And it was a case-by-case basis. So they had all this government stimulus that was coming out to support these people, but the government stimulus was coming out in the media and then we'd find out at the same time. So then we'd have to quickly research and understand it because obviously our clients are going to ask us and need help, especially during these distressing times.
I think it was, everything happened so fast during COVID as well. I think, the government would come out with something and then it would change the next day.
Exactly. And we used to be on the phone to the state government just asking, what does this mean?
And they probably didn't even...
No.
Really,
So the criteria, the eligibility criteria was coming out in dribs and drabs.
Yeah.
So we'd constantly have to monitor that, plus being in lockdown, being consumed by all of it, and having to reassure clients that they'll get through this and being on top of their numbers and interpreting that for them to make sure that they were okay. it was a lot of long hours. And
Have you seen most of those businesses like bounce back?
they have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good. That's
really
good.
good to see that they got through it.
Yeah.
Did you find that the government incentives such as, JobKeeper, JobSeeker, all those things, do you think they were, looking back in hindsight, do you think they were beneficial?
To an extent,
Yep.
I believe it was a short-term solution.
Yeah.
So a lot of people they didn't know the true value of their business
Yep.
at the time and know how much income they were actually making.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a security blanket.
People panicked and signed up for it, or
Yeah, well, they were just in hardship at the time and needed the money, which understandably, I would have done the same thing.
because we find, looking back on it now, obviously we work quite closely with accountants, and we've found that businesses who have taken on JobKeeper or JobSeeker, the banks don't actually include that as income, so we have to take it away.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand the true value of their income because they look at their returns or, and they go, hey, but I made this, but the bank's only recognising
Yeah, the bank's
this,
interpretation
so
is completely different.
we find
Yeah.
that has been a big ramification in the tax world from
Yes.
that period of time.
Definitely.
But it's good to see that at least people were able to sort of bridge that gap with because I guess at the time no one knew where it was going. Was the other scary thing,
No,
or
it's
when it
unprecedented.
would end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we actually thought it was the end of the world.
Yeah.
Who would have thought
Yeah.
it would have gone back to normal?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
quickly as well.
I know.
It's funny you say that because after COVID or post-COVID, the amount of people who use brokers for home loans, increased significantly because when people were trying to imagine everyone panicking, trying to get on the phone to the bank, you can't get a hold of the banks at the best of times with wait times
Yeah.
and things like that.
Let
So
alone when
people realised how important having that personal connection is with your home loan and your mortgage, and it would be the same
Yeah.
with an accountant. So I think it was good for a lot of industries.
Definitely.
Like I said before, we obviously work very closely, our industries together. One question that we get asked a lot that I would like some clarification on is clients often ask us, is it better for me I want to buy this property through a family trust or
Yes.
I want to buy it as a company? I mean, we sort of tell them that there's not much difference on the lending side, but,
Yeah.
is there benefits tax-wise or is it all much of a muchness? How does that work?
Again, it depends on everyone's circumstance. So I can't say what structure is better.
Yeah.
But I know from a land tax point of view, even though we don't provide advice on land tax because it's a state tax,
Yeah.
but for individuals, there's a land tax threshold.
Yeah.
So it caps when you have to pay land tax, whereas if you were to buy property in a trust, that threshold doesn't apply.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So it's different things like that. But if you have multiple properties, depending on your circumstance, then you may look into a trust. So it just all depends.
So there'd probably be people listening that didn't understand any of those terms. So George and I have actually, Carter's putting his hand up in the background. He's been looking at us like a stunned mullet this whole podcast.
I'm learning a lot.
Carter's writing notes down on this actually as we go. So
Yeah.
look, there probably is heaps of those types of words out there, right? So
There are.
George and I have picked a few to rattle off in a bit of a quick fire definition for you. George, do you want to kick it off?
Most certainly do. Let's start
Sure.
with probably, I reckon, one of the more common ones. What's a write-off?
Right off.
Everyone says, oh, yeah, I'm just going to write it off.
Yeah. Oh, seriously.
Like-
some of the small business people who we speak to. Yeah.
Who
yeah.
pays for it? The write-off police.
Coffee
Yeah.
write-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have
Dog
to
wash
pay for it.
write-off. Yeah. Who pays for that? What's a write-off? Tell us,
It's probably
please.
the easy solution. Write it off.
Yes.
Yeah.
So write-off can be used in a number of different scenarios. So it could be that you've invoiced the customer, they're not paying you.
Yeah.
You've gone under legal litigation if necessary. Most
Yeah.
people don't. You know you're not going to receive that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You write it off. So
But what does that? Where does it go? Where does this write-off
in
go?
in the abyss.
In the accountant's
So,
wizard's hat.
so instead of we have in the accounts that they're going to receive that money,
Yeah.
we take that out of the accounts and put it as part of their expenses.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So it eats into the company profit.
That's right.
So you don't actually get any benefits for writing something off.
No, a lot of people believe they do.
Yeah, that's a big myth because so really it's like writing off your car.
Yeah,
That's the write-off you're talking about.
So I guess there's benefits in terms of you reduce your income, so you don't get taxed as much. But say from a lending point of view, you guys can speak to this, but obviously you want to show that there's profits in the company.
Yes.
Correct.
So it's
So it can work in a good way.
catch-22.
Yeah.
No,
Depends on personal
So
circumstances.
really,
at the time.
everyone's been using write-off like it's a good thing. But there you go.
Not
you heard it.
necessarily.
It's not good at all. I don't see many benefits at all. All right. So one I had was, and we sort of touched on it, but depreciation.
Yes.
You sort of gave us a good definition before, but what about in terms of property depreciation? Because a lot of people say when I buy an investment property, I can claim depreciation on my fittings or the building depreciation. Can you give us a little rundown of that?
So there's two different types of depreciation.
Yep.
There's the depreciation on, say, your furniture.
Yep.
So say your desk, your bed, all of that. Obviously, you wouldn't have a bed in an investment property, but you know what I mean.
A bit weird.
So you can claim depreciation for that. So say, for example, what would you have? A mirror on the wall.
Yep.
And a mirror, for argument's sake, will last 5 years. I think it would actually last 20.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can depreciate it, so take a portion of the cost as an expense
Yep.
over the 20 years.
And that comes off your taxable income.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That
Correct.
makes sense.
That's what it means. But there's an incentive, a tax incentive that will last up to 30 June 2023. So it may not apply soon. Where
Quick, what is this? Quick.
I saw you both ooh.
Yeah, what is this?
So it's been in place since October, I would say 2020,
Yep.
when COVID hit.
Oh, yeah.
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 Where if you were to buy, say, this microphone, you could claim the full cost of the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, is this
Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah.
It's called temporary expensing.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
A lot of our sole trader ABN clients are doing this at the moment to claim back as much as they can while it still lasts.
Yeah.
Yes, I've
Am I
heard this.
correct in saying another term for it's instant asset write-off?
Yeah, so
no.
initially when they
Is that
first
different?
introduced
Yeah.
it was called instant asset write-off. Then they
Right,
changed
they've
the
changed
rules to temporary expensing.
So in short,
Right.
no, you're not correct in saying that.
No.
You're wrong.
Technically,
George
when it was
knew.
brought out, I was correct. If we
Shocker,
rewind
George
it-
is wrong.
Oh, yeah.
No, not at all.
What have you got?
But yeah, it's ending 30 June 2023. COVID's over. Now this is over. So,
Oh, what a bummer. But at least
Yeah.
COVID's over. Another one that I've got, Katie, a sole trader.
yes.
What
so
is the
a
simple
sole trader
definition?
is somebody that has an ABN
Yeah.
and works for themselves without opening a company. They
Okay.
literally just have their own business.
So what's the difference between a company and a sole trader? Is it ABN and ACN? Like you have to have a company number or what?
There's
what?
another-
yes and no. So a sole trader is you personally. You're earning the income. Your income is going to be declared into your personal tax return.
Yeah.
Whereas a
Yeah.
company is considered to be a separate legal entity, so someone else. So all the income and expenses that you earn in the company stays in the company.
Do you have to have employees to have a company?
No,
Or
you don't have to.
You don't have to?
No,
Okay.
not at all. Not at all. There's so many different rules.
What's the benefits like for someone who's maybe starting their own business or thinking about it?
Yeah.
What's the benefits of being a sole trader versus starting a company?
It depends on the kind of business
Yeah.
that they want to run, but initially a lot of people start off as a sole trader because they're not earning as much income and expenses.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's all dependent on the tax rate. So as an individual, you have marginal rates and they can increase from 19% to 32.5% and onwards, up to 47%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whereas a company, if you're running your own business, is capped at 25%. So that's the benefit of a company.
So if you're earning a lot of income, right,
Yeah.
you're better than starting a company because you're going to get taxed less than if you did it all through your ABN.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. It's sort of, you probably get this all the time, but it's sort of frustrating that the government wants to penalise you for working more or earning more? Is that not something you
All the
guys hear all the time?
All the time.
It's so true. That's why you see your accountant. So you at least
Exactly.
pretend that you earn
The
less.
wizards.
Yeah, the wizards. That's right.
We just try to minimise the impact as much as possible.
Yeah, you just play within the rules. That's how it's done. I guess the last one that I had, and we've sort of touched on it in between all these definitions, but what about add backs? You hear, can I add back this? Is that an add back? What's an add back?
So an add back in the tax world is, say you pay for a water bottle.
Yep.
And you don't want to include that as part of your income. Not that you don't want to include it, but it should be excluded under tax legislation.
Yep.
Then you add back the cost. So you take out that expense so your income is higher for tax purposes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, thank you. What would be one of those expenses?
So entertainment expenditure.
Okay.
So we find in a lot of companies where they spend a lot of money on events, and we know that their personal
Wining and
dining. So with clients, and there are a few drinks in, and they claim it all through the business.
Yeah, the
So-
company card comes out.
Yeah. So there's all these different rules around it.
Yeah.
But a portion of that is most often than not added back
Okay.
and not included as part of the net profit of the company.
Okay.
So then what happens to that in terms of taxable income with the add backs? Where does that go?
So once you add all these expenses back, they're still in your accounts for accounting. There's a difference between accounting and tax per legislation. So what your profit could be for accounting purposes is not necessarily your profit for tax.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So you add back all these expenses, which means that your tax profit is higher. So then you get taxed higher.
Yeah.
There you go.
Interesting.
We're learning something too as we go.
I'm loving this.
It's really good. We could keep you on all night, Katie, but
Sweet.
I think that is
Yeah, I think that'll
do
wrap
it
it.
for this time.
If there's anyone out there that's looking to get any sort of accounting advice, whether you're a small business, whether you're just a person earning a salary, Katie, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys and 542 Partners?
You can call us.
Yeah.
We're on our website, 542 Partners. More than welcome to pop into Cronulla at our firm. We're near the beach, just at the front of the mall.
Next to ScoMo.
Yeah, right on top of ScoMo's office. So more than welcome to visit us and inquire. And our number, should I say the number?
Yeah. Put out the number. It'll be in the show notes and everything as well.
Then forget it.
But yeah, forget it. You're not getting the number live on air. Too bad. Read the show notes, everyone. Unlucky. Or just get in touch with us on our Instagram page as well. We can put you in the right direction to
Definitely.
talk to the guys at 542. If you're lucky enough or rich enough, you might get Katie. If not, you'll be with another great member of their team.
We're an
So,
amazing team.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us
you, Kate.
today.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
been an absolute pleasure.
Been a blast.
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, we could have gone for another couple of hours, I reckon.
Yeah, have to do a part 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking forward to it.
And that'll do it for our very first episode of That'll Teach You. It was a fantastic bit of information there for anyone out there who is a small business owner thinking of getting some financial advice for the tax year ahead. Or if you haven't done your tax returns yet for this year and you want to get that sorted, George, I'm looking at you. I think that is a real good starting point. And just even if you're not interested in doing taxes, at least you know a bit more about it now.
Definitely. I've thoroughly enjoyed our first episode, mate. Thank you to our listeners out there for all the support, especially on our first episode. Thanks to our team, Sam the lighting man, Carter, our producer. And most importantly, thank you to Katie.
Yes.
Katie, our guest today. Of course, herself and 542 Partners, if you want to reach out to them. Details are going to be in our show notes or easiest probably way is to go through social media.
That's right, George. And if you're out there and you found like you got a bit of information out of today, don't panic. There's more episodes to come and a lot more knowledge to cram into your brain. So stay tuned. There will be episodes dropping every fortnight with different topics, and we'll be teasing those throughout our social medias, Pat and George _SCW on Instagram, or all our other website details will be in the show notes as well. Looking forward to seeing you next episode. Remember, that'll teach ya.
That'll teach ya.